You're wondering now what to do. Now you know this is the end. You're wondering how you will pay for the way you did behave. You're wondering now what to do. Now you know this is the end. You're wondering now what to do. Now you know this is the end.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to take up an hour of your time. That's all. That should be long enough for me to say everything I want to say. And anything that doesn't get said, isn't done, well, it won't be heard. It won't happen. Because our time is limited. June 1986, and I'm 25 years old, and I'm training to be a life insurance salesman. The trainer, a man called Robin Dunn, is trying to convince us of the importance of life insurance. So, what's the pension age for men? Oh, it's 65, isn't it? Yeah, but what proportion of men die before they get to pension age? Oh, that's a question. 5%? 10%? No, a third. A third of men don't live long enough to get their pension. Oh. Well, I'm pretty sure I'll be in that 2/3. You know, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the short-lived third, except maybe as something to scare prospective clients with. Anyway, I'm not a very good life insurance salesman. I sell one policy and then go back to finish my PhD. Yeah. December 2016, Ruth, my wife, and I are meeting Mark, our financial advisor. You know, our mortgage endowments have matured, all but one of the children have left home. It's time for a new phase to look at things like pensions and retirement, I don't know, maybe a wedding or two. Mark starts with a fact find. So, Huw, how long do you think you're going to live? Oh, wow. That is quite a question. I mean, I'm 56, and I'm well aware of the risk factors. With hypertension medication, my blood pressure is in the normal range. I'm taking statins to keep the bad cholesterol down. I'm a non-smoker. I'm eating healthily, you know, low fat, lots of fiber, and you know, I drink moderately. And you know, I'm keeping my weight down. I've got a BMI of 25 when the scales are for me. And you know, I do maybe 50 miles a week on the bike. You know, that's a lot of risk factors covered. Well, I can see myself getting to 80, but I can't see myself getting to 90. Well, let's split the difference. Call it 85. Oh, okay, 85. The Office for Financial Statistics on its website has a tool that will give you an indication of your life expectancy. If I put in my age at the time, which is 56 in 2016, it gives me a life expectancy of 85 years. Yeah, exactly the same. Actually, it'll give a range of about 85 to 87 years for most people. So, 85. I mean, is there some way of making that a bit more concrete. In classical mythology, the three fates would spin your life thread, and when you got to your allotted span, they would cut it. Well, the threads, yeah, but they're a bit tricky. So I'm going to use candles instead. And we're going to use it so that 1 inch of candle is 1 decade. So 85 years for me gives me 8.5 inches of candle. And of course, you, well, when does this thing fire now? There we go. And you, of course, you get 8.6 inches of candle. There. It's lit when you're born, and it gutters out when you die. Well, 8.6 inches, that's not bad, is it? Except we all know people who have got nowhere near to that age. 2 of my contemporaries were killed in motorcycle accidents before they were 21. Another drowned in a canoeing accident while he was still at university. As we grow older, we lose more of our cohort, some to accident, some to disease, a small number to suicide. And look at those figures. If you have a 60% chance of getting to 85, you've got a 40% chance of not getting to 45. And of course, the graphs all end at 0. August 1973. My family is on a holiday in the Brecon Beacons. We go to visit Tretower Castle, which is in the care of the Ministry of Works. It's not huge, more a sort of fortified manor house than anything else. We poke about a bit, and then we go upstairs to the solar, which is the family's private living quarters. There's a window with little diamond-shaped panes of glass, and above the fireplace, there's the family crest, which is 3 youths' heads, each with a snake wrapped around the neck. A sort of reptile cravat. Now, there's a story there. I mean, yeah, we've got time. Many years ago, when Tretower Castle was new, when the whitewash on the walls was shining bright and there were tapestries, rich tapestries on the walls of the solar and rushes on the floor, Lord Vaughan's wife gave birth to her first child, a son, an heir to the title and to all the lands and rights of Tretower. They had the child christened in the castle chapel. And then, as they were showing him off to the castle folk and the villagers, an old woman drew near. She was known to everyone as a wise woman who, it was said, on occasion, could see things that were yet to be. She drew near and looked onto the child's face and began to weep. Why are you spoiling this joyous day with your tears? Lord Vaughan asked. The old woman groaned. I weep because this child will never inherit his father's title. He will die of a snake's bite before his 16th birthday. Lord Vaughan swelled with fury. You lie, he said. He had her whipped and chased out of the village. He forbade anyone to mention her or her prophecy again. Yet he could not forget her words. By the time the child was walking, he found excuse to keep him close by. In the summer, when the other boys played on the hillsides, he forbade him the heather, the moorland where the adders hid. By the time the boy was 15, Lord Vaughan was obsessed. He had the heather burnt off the moors. He kept the lad indoors. Winter came, snow fell, frost formed on the diamond panes of glass. One morning, the lad was alone in the solar. As he peered out of the window, watching the other lads playing in the snow, the fire died down. When he turned round, he saw it and sighed. He knelt down on the hearth to revive it. He picked up a handful of kindling, and he cried out, because there, hanging from his hand, was an adder, its fangs buried deep. Someone in collecting kindling must have mistaken it for a stick, and then just the warmth of the soul had revived it. He flung it off into the fire, but it was too late. The poison hurried round his veins. The servants came running. They tried to cool the sudden fever off him, but he grew weaker. And before his father could reach him, he died. The feast that was being prepared for his 16th birthday was served at his funeral. Lord Vaughan had no other heir, and the castle tower passed to another family. I like stories. I always have. Telling them, writing them. I've been doing it for years. The problem is, though, it's not just my lack of technique. No, the problem is time. Writing, like anything else worth doing, takes time. Time to sit at your desk and stare at the annoyingly blank screen. Time to finally get some words down. Time to completely rearrange the words to make them into something better. Finding time to write is difficult. When there are jobs and children. And don't forget, you see, we've only got those 85 years. April 2016. An old friend, close friend, dies of cancer. During his illness, he made this sketch in oils for a triptych about Pentecost. He never got to make the full painting. The same month, I was asked to give a short talk about my writing journey. It's taken me years to get to the point that I think that writing and creative stuff, that is my thing, my calling, my vocation. But with that realization, there came a fear that if I didn't give this the time it needed to flourish, then I'll get to the end of my life without having really tried properly, and there would just be sketches, half-finished stories, poems of just in their first draft. From that, there came a manifesto. This is it. I am more than ever resolved not to do the things that do not matter. Not to do things other people can do. Not to do things other people want me to do. But to do the thing I am called to. Writing. December 2016. We're back in that meeting with Mark, our financial advisor. So, Huw, is there anything that's nagging you that maybe we can address with the money? Oh. Well, yeah, it's the writing. You know, I mean, it's going well. It's going well, but there's not enough time. I've got lots of ideas, plenty of projects, but there's just not enough time. Well, we'll have to see what we can do about that with the money, won't we? Mark pulls out his A3 sheets of paper, his multicoloured pen, and he starts drawing graphs that drag time and money into the same vortex. I scamper around the house, bringing him the numbers he needs for his alchemy. Eventually, he looks up. Well, Huw, I'm putting you into semi-retirement. You're only going to have to work 2 days a week as a technical author. The rest of the time is for your writing. Oh. Semi-retirement? I mean, man, is there nothing that man can't do with our money? Well, January 2017. I am writing Gilbert the Liar, a story that's been bothering me for years, finished. The Night Elephant, a story in verse for children, finished. Fortune's Favour, a young adult novel about 18th century theatre, making good progress. There's an end in sight. I can see how this can go now, that we can get this good new stuff published. We can maybe eventually draw a line under the technical writing altogether. And you know, then maybe when I get to 70, I'll slacken off a bit. And having learnt Italian, I'll translate Dante's Divine Comedy. You know, for fun. It's a future, you know, I can almost see it forming. September 15th, 2040. It's our golden wedding celebration. I'm 80, Ruth is 74, and more wonderful than ever. There's a lot of people gathered to celebrate us. Well, I think it's a little more than that. I put down my wine glass and take out the notes from my speech, just to have a last look. There is a lot to be thankful for. The writing, well, so the National Theatre never took any of my plays, but plenty of other theatres did. The books have sold well, and the Dante translation, it's coming on. It's coming on. It's good. And there's the children, man alive. You know, there used to be these little people you had to strap into car chairs that were obsessed by diggers and had no sense. Look at them. They've got jobs, partners, houses. I have put up so many shelves for them. And then there are the grandchildren. I have so enjoyed getting to know this next generation, playing with them, having serious discussions about whales with 6-year-olds, beating down their young incredulity when I tell them that when Grandad was their age, there was no internet. Looking back, 50 years, I think the vows I made then, I think those are pretty much the best decision I ever made. May 2017. I've been having bouts of abdominal pain. I put it down to reflux and indigestion. But it gets worse. Ruth thinks there might be something more. She suggests forcefully that I go and see the GP. The GP thinks it might be appendicitis. He arranges for me to be admitted to the Royal Victoria Infirmary, the RVI. I take a taxi. Later that evening, I have a scan. The night is uncomfortable, with no food and nothing to drink. About 2 o'clock in the morning, registrar comes round and says the scan has shown that my appendix has burst, and there's some kind of growth in the bowel. Oh, the appendix, that's, we're expecting that. The growth, I don't know. I'm sure they can sort it out. In the morning, Ruth arrives, and the consultant takes us into a side room. So, Mr. Evans, the scan shows that your appendix is inflamed and has burst. The inflammation has probably been caused by a cancerous growth in the bowel. Cancer. Yes, we will operate and we'll remove the appendix and the growth with a short section of bowel. Unfortunately, the cancer has spread to both lobes of the liver. Therefore, any treatment that we offer will be palliative. It will not be curative. Outside, the sky is blue. The building work on the RVI continues without a break. I am terminally ill. 2 hours later, I'm in theatre, having seen the surgeon, the anaesthetist, and the stoma nurses. I come round in the high dependency unit, missing an appendix and about 10 centimetres of large bowel. I have a ileostomy, a stoma. I'm still terminally ill. It turns out that short lifespans are something of a commonplace on the male side of my family. My uncle Maldwin, 1970, he died of a heart attack at the age of 49. He gets 4.9 inches of candle. My maternal grandfather, William Robert Williams, survived the First World War, but died of complications of surgery in 1958. He was about 65. My paternal grandfather, Lewis Evan Evans, died of kidney failure in 1948. He was 55 years old. My own father died unexpectedly of heart failure in 1996. He was 69 years old. So, it looks like that I'll be carrying on the family tradition. But I don't yet know exactly how long I have got to live. Life expectancy is a question for the oncologist. And the first appointment with the oncologist had a flavour of Antiques Roadshow about it. Thank you for bringing this in. Has it been in the family long?
No, I think this is the first generation.
I see. Well, it's it's a bowel tumour with liver secondaries.
I know.
And I understand you've had it valued by the surgeons?
They told me it wasn't curable.
Good. They aren't always that clear. Now, let's have a look at it. Oh, yes. Well, it's French, mid-18th century. And yes, if you look at the maker's mark there, you can see a little fleur-de-lis next to it. That shows it was made for the royal household, which is something that the quality of the work certainly confirms. Just look at the decoration on that heron's wing. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, it's got blemishes.
How long?
Chip here.
How long?
It should have been part of a larger piece, I think. But, you want to know how long you've got? Well, without treatment, about 12 months. With treatment, probably 24 months. 24 months. That gets me to May 2019, which is at the age of 58, which is some 27 years less than I was planning on. July 2017. I'm not angry, not yet, not shaking my fist to the heavens and blaming God. No, by my theology, shit happens. You can put that down for fall if you like. No, I'm sad. Near overwhelming sadness that becomes even more intense if I talk about things. It presses down on me. Bizarrely, I remember that one of the original meanings of the word sad is actually heavy. So, sadness for loss. I mean, obviously, the big lost future, but there are other more personal, immediate losses. August 1983. I'm on a train from Frankfurt to Munich, heading for an archaeological research project in Yugoslavia. We're supposed to be hitchhiking, but that's gone really badly. In the toilet cubicle, there's an electric socket. So, for the first time in days, I shave. It's also the last time I shave. my beard starts. September 2017. The hair all over my body is thinning as the chemotherapy attacks the hair follicles. I'm fearful for my beard. You know, it's a part of how I see myself. It's, Ruth has never seen me without my beard. In the middle of everything, my beard gets a poem. On the altar. The curls of Nero's youthful beard, housed in a golden box studded with pearls, were offered on the altar of Capitoline Jupiter. Dad summoned me to the electric altar, the shavings caught in a metal waste bin, cream painted, invoking an unwipeable grin at manhood. Then I let it grow again, a Jacob goating his cheeks for the eldest's portion until the face beneath became the mask. Toward the great crab, the altar is dressed with garlands of drug days, dignity, and sleep, ready for the hairs from a razorless defacing. So, what can I do about this? What can I do about it? Well, there's an answer in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 27. Who of you, by worrying, can add a single cubit to his height? I can't do anything about it. All I can do is to maybe try to stop wasting energy worrying about the too many hairs on the comb in the shower on my shoulders. Try to do that, but I don't always succeed. And there's another thing. Oh, actually, we're a bit short time. We'll leave that. So, 2 years. What do I do in 2 years? I can tell you some things I'm not going to do. I'm not going to Disney World. And I'm not going to bother the dolphins. They've got enough trouble without me barging in. But 24 months, what am I going to do? Well, turns out there are 2 categories. Category 1 is family. We're going to spend time together. We're going to do good things that make the now that we have worthwhile. So, Ruth and I, we've been to Paris, we've been to Amsterdam, we took some of the children to Barcelona. In the summer, we went to Lake Como it was. Oh, wonderful. We went to the Edinburgh Festival. If my health holds out, some of us may get to Rome. Even if we don't, we will still spend time together. The second category, then, is the writing and creative stuff. I'm still writing. I came up with my manifesto before I knew I was ill. So why should being terminally ill change that? I mean, if anything, it's intensified my sense of vocation. I'm having to be selective with projects, new and old. So I've self-published a couple of children's books I couldn't find commercial publishers for. I've written and published a volume of poetry. The theatre group I'm part of, we performed our new play. I'm working through the list of unfinished projects. Fortune's Favourite is now on that tricky second draft. After that, there's a short book about history. Then, I don't know. Time is not on my side. Because 24 months are not 24 working months. I mean, chemotherapy takes 4 or 5 days a fortnight. And on those days, writing, doing anything, is almost impossible. I have to accept some things are not going to happen. That Dante translation, no. The series of blog posts about art, no. The jotted titles and notes for plots I have are going to stay like that. They're never going to be fulfilled. But in the middle of all my planning, unexpected things happen. 17th of October, 2017, 2 a.m. I can't sleep. Yesterday's chemotherapy and the side order of steroids have just left me wired. So I get up and I go down to my study. The computer is blinking at me. So I might as well write. Eggs. The eggs of St. Hieronymus all came from special hens, who spoke to him in Spanish and wrote it with their pens. The eggs of St. Ophelia came from a pigeon rare, which had instead of feathers a coat of ginger hair. The eggs of St. Patricia were laid by geese and ducks, who woke her every morning with gentle calls and clucks. The eggs of St. Zenobia were laid by lazy mice, and even though quite tiny, they tasted very nice. The eggs of St. Perdita were square instead of round. They never rolled off tables nor shattered on the ground. The eggs of St. Augustine were laid by dogs and cats, which hid them in his habit to keep them from the rats. The eggs of St. Methodius were brought by little fish from deep beneath the ocean upon a paper dish. The eggs I have for breakfast are free range, nothing quaint, because I am a poet, not medieval saint. 4 a.m. I put my coat on and go for a walk. There are lights on in 1 or 2 windows, a few taxis rushing past. At the local Greggs, there's a huge van unloading more cheese and onion bakes than I can imagine. January 1975. Scientific American magazine has an article about anamorphism in paintings. One example is The Ambassadors by Hans Holbein the Younger. It has this big brown smear at the bottom, which doesn't make any sense unless you view the painting from the top right, at which point it resolves into a skull. 1975, I was interested in anamorphism. Now I am more interested in the skull. See, Renaissance paintings have a proliferation of skulls. You know, the sitter may even be resting their hand upon one. Why all the skulls? Well, they are a memento mori, Post-it notes in paint that say, remember, you will die. That all your silks, your brocades, your velvets, your furs, your gold chains, they won't last. Because your head with its carefully styled hair and daring mustachios will come to this bare bone. Memento Mori were intended to save people from the vanity of this world and to help them prepare for the next. I stand before you as a living memento mori. I am acutely aware that I will die. I'm also aware that you will die. Now, that's hardly news, but it might be something that you've managed to ignore until now. But see, for me, it brings the question, the main enormous question, the question that is so big it is almost blotting out the sun. Given we are all going to die, how then shall we live? Or to put it another way, in the face of death, what makes life worth living? Now, it's a truism to say that nobody on their deathbed wished they ever spent more time at the office. But where's the positive? Where's the something that you could say, looking back on your life, yes, I've used my limited time well. I mean, what is there? And I don't mean stupid daydreams. I mean, I'm never going to be an Olympic athlete. No. I mean, maybe that secret purpose that you've never told anyone. That thing that you think if you don't try it, you're going to die just a little disappointed. Is there anything like that? Is there? And if there is, are you going to do anything about it? Or is it too difficult to think about? You can't do it while the children are young. Maybe you should just wait until retirement. Do not put it off. Do the thinking. Work around the children. Don't be so sure you're going to get to retirement. But Huw, it's so difficult. Well, yes, of course it's difficult. Life is difficult. I don't know if it's the right thing. No, you don't. You're going to have to try it. But look, there's an exercise that Mark, our magical financial advisor, that he suggests. Identify that thing that you think you would, should, ought, would like to do. It might be wood carving, watercolour painting, yoga, opening a shop, starting a dog grooming business. It might be something bigger than that, like campaigning against pesticides or the abolition of the monarchy. Now, imagine yourself 5 years into the future. November 2023. You've spent the last 5 years working at the wood turning or the republicanism. How do you feel about all the burnished bowls that are making houses around the country more beautiful? How's Stephen Fry doing as the first president of England? When you think about that, does it make you feel better or worse? More or less satisfied? And I'm using satisfied, not enjoyable, because difficult things are worth doing. If the answer is better or more satisfied, then maybe you need to do some more thinking about it. Because this is about now. Not if or when, but your life now. You don't know how long you've got. 15th of September 2045. 40. Today it should have been our golden wedding celebration, but it isn't, because I've been dead for 20 years. I don't know how the day will be marked. I doubt there will be a party. Perhaps it'll be moments of sorrow that ripple through the lives of family and a few aging friends. It's not missing the party that I mind, although I do like making speeches. No, it's the missing 20 years of being married to the woman I love, who I love more now than I did then. I won't see the children grow up. I won't be putting up shelves in their first houses or flats. I'll be getting nervous at meeting their partners for the first time. And then there are the grandchildren. If you've kept track of the dates and ages, you'll realise that by the time I was born, both of my grandfathers were dead. And they were shadowy figures, hardly ever talked about, not really present. My own father, well, he died before the youngest of our two children were born. The other two were only 3 and 18 months when he died. There were pictures of him in my mother's house, and we told stories, but how much they really knew of him, it's difficult to say. If there are grandchildren, and that is not up to me, I won't know of them, and they won't know me. I will be an image in photographs, a character in their parents' stories. Perhaps this is best in a poem. It's called Craig y Gigfran, Rock of the Raven. It's the first peak, summit in the ridge of hills that runs behind Barmouth. At the top, there's a cairn, and next to it a plaque, erected to the memory of soldiers from Birmingham district who fell 1st July 1916. You told us, as we followed you on the grassy road curved by the hillside, or poked fearfully into little caverns, that these marked abandoned attempts at mining for manganese, I think. That a gunpowder charge was set off to alert the town to an incoming ship. That a lad from what are now tumbled, roofless walls was at school with you. That in summer you and your schoolmates slid down the grassed slopes on old jute sacks. That the whole hillside was less deserted, not reserved for walkers and sheep. We stooped for stones just before the gate, carried them over the slabs of volcanic vomit and added them to the summit. We posed photographs propped against the cairn or gazing Darien-like across the town and bay. The kids and I come up the other path, some walking, some carried up the hill. Partly for the education in place, partly because I can't help myself, mostly to stop this knowledge in you from fading as certainly as the unnamed, unregimented Somme soldiery. I tell them all those things and add a stone. The 17th century writer and doctor, Sir Thomas Browne, talked about this question of remembrance in his book, Urn Burial. There is no antidote against the opium of time. Our fathers find their graves in our short memories and sadly tell us how we may be buried in our survivors. Gravestones tell truth scarce 40 years, Generations pass while some trees stand, and old families last not 3 oaks. To be read by bare inscriptions, to hope for eternity by enigmatical epithets, or the first letters of our names, are cold consolations unto the students of perpetuity. To be content that times to come should only know there was such a man, not caring whether they knew more of him, was frigid ambition. See, you are unlikely to be known beyond the grandchildren, unlikely to be remembered beyond the great-grandchildren. And even if the name survives, what's the point of that? Where's the person? What's the point of living if we're not remembered? 1979, a O-level Latin class in sixth form. Exegi monumentum aere perennius relique situ pyramidum altius. We are translating an ode by the Roman poet Horace, which goes roughly like this. I've completed a memorial more lasting than bronze, higher than the site of the royal pyramids, which neither the raging rain nor the wild north wind nor the countless succession of years and the flight of time is able to destroy. His next line is key. I will not wholly die, he says, confident that so long as somebody speaks or reads Latin, then his work will survive. And actually, maybe Horace, in his pride, has a point. His work has survived. He is vicariously known. He is more than just a name or initials on a stone. Although, as Sir Thomas Browne says, to be nameless in worthy deeds exceeds an infamous history. But, I don't know. I mean, what's the point of slogging away at this writing if it doesn't survive? If there are all these words on poems, plays, stories, all sitting on a hard drive, read by nobody, what's the point? And what's the point of a vocation if it comes to nothing? I mean, what's the point of writing another word? Maybe the problem is to do the way that we shape the world by our words. If we framed our lives differently, could we live them differently? Live them better? The metaphor that we use most commonly, the one we slip into, is life is a journey. I mean, I can use that metaphor to explore my own situation. I'm on a train going from Newcastle to King's Cross. First class, because I'm worth it. I've got 3 hours, without interruption, 3 hours that I can write. So I've got a few emails to catch up on, a blog post I want to do, and maybe a chapter of Fortune's Favourite. I mean, 3 hours is plenty of time to get through that. So I crack open the iPad and get going. But as the train leaves Durham, I get a phone call. The toilet up in the attic bathroom has failed catastrophically. I'm Going to have to get off the train at Darlington and go and sort it out. Darlington, shit, I mean, that's only 20 minutes. What can I do in 20 minutes? And which should it be? Should it be the emails, the blog post, the fiction? I don't know. I look enviously at other passengers who are just going to be continuing their journey to King's Cross. Why can't it be one of them? See, here we are again. Shortness of time. Life as a journey doesn't help me. See, one of the things, the metaphors, is that they will emphasize one aspect of a phenomenon, but they'll mask other ones. I mean, for example, take... we'll leave that. So the problem with life as a journey is that although it lets us go through, one or two places, it still emphasizes the destination. The point of a journey is to arrive, but we don't want to. Not now. Not yet. Maybe we can use a different metaphor that doesn't have that problem. Perhaps we could use life is a dance. See, unlike stories, dances are rarely linear. They repeat and fall back on themselves, creating moments of joy and wonder. Short encounters between the dancers that can come again and again, or may happen only once. In any dance, there are motions and movements at many different scales, a gesture, a motif, a placement of people. In folk dances, pairs form, process, join others in brief quartets, and move on and mingle. The dance is what is being danced. Could we use that to shape the way we think about our lives, which are already full of motifs of repeating gestures and actions? We meet people, some only once, others again and again in similar but never identical encounters. We become part of couples, families, ethnic groups, language speakers, even, heaven help us, supporters of football clubs. They change us and we change them. In the dance, what is important is the moment, the now. This step, this stretch, this touch, this hold. And the dance goes on, far beyond us, our lives, our concerns. The planets step around the sun, some slowly, some quickly. The world wheels beneath the stars. Continents shift and slide on beds of molten metal. Ice sheets spread and shrink as the climate cools or the world warms. Water molecules fall as rain, run to the sea, are snatched off its surface by the wind and the sun to join the clouds. And we can catch raindrops, make snowmen, feel the earth moving, be warmed by the sun, and watch the stars. September 2018. I get a pair of binoculars for my birthday. I'm watching the birds that clutter up the back garden. Now, as well as blackbirds and woodpigeons and collared doves, I can see goldfinches, greenfinches, chaffinches. There's the heron that torments next door's goldfish, the sparrowhawk that takes the occasional pigeon. I mean, does it matter that I can now identify, some more species? In one level, it doesn't. But it acknowledges the part that the birds have played in this cosmic dance for thousands of generations, the part they will continue to play. As A. Houseman had it in his book of poetry, A Shropshire Lad, he says, take from 70 years a score. That only leaves me 50 more. And 50 springs is little room to see the hawthorn tree in bloom. At one level of the dance, we can appreciate the hedgerows veiled in white, knowing that in a few days the flowers will fade. At another level, we can note the procession of the constellations, a gradual circulation that takes many lifetimes. I think however long you've got, that looking at beauty is worth doing. March 2018. I'm on the beach at Barmouth, the small Welsh town my father was born and where he died. I've known this beach pretty much my whole life. The waves are rolling in over the sand and the shingle with a shushing growl, the way they have done long before I was born and the way they will do long after I'm gone. There's a poem about that. It's called A Trife, in English, The Beach. Okay. We haven't got time for that. Maybe I shouldn't have told that story earlier. So, coming back to the writing, maybe I have to stop worrying about finishing the novel and just focus on enjoying the sentences and phrases as I write them, taking pleasure in single words and the way they sit alongside their neighbours. May 2019. Or maybe October 2019. Maybe even February 2020. The last line, chemotherapy, stopped working a long time ago. The tumours have spread into the liver and spread into the bone and into the lungs. I am weaker, wearier. I can hardly get out into the garden, let alone get out on the bike. I'm too weak and don't even have enough energy to write. In a few days, I won't even have the energy to stay alive. And I will die.
They told me, Heraclitus, they told me you were dead, that some small bird had built its nest inside your noble head, that hermit crabs and little shrimps were gnawing at your brain, the matrix of your dearest thoughts ground down by rock and rain. They told me, Heraclitus, that they had got your nose, your liver and your testicles and 7 of your toes. The flesh and blood and bone of you was refuse on the ground, while all your Heraclitusness was nowhere to be found. They told me, Heraclitus, as if I did not know, the rotted meat that once was you now helps the fruit trees grow, while all the brightness of the mind that made your music soar lies lost among the particles that drift the ocean floor. They told me, Heraclitus, but I could not conceive the end of all that made you, you. I still do not believe.
They told me, Heraclitus. They told me you were dead.
And what then? Well, there are crudely two options: something or nothing. Look at nothing, the Brian Cox option. Once you're dead, your atoms mingle with the stars in the wonderful development of the universe. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulders of Orion, sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All these moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. Blade Runner. Beautiful and hopeless. The other option is something. Now, something comes in a lot of varieties. You can have gibbering shades in Hades with the Greeks and Romans. You can have feasting to the last battle with the Vikings. You can have going round the whole thing again and again until you can escape from the loop. Or there's paradise. But there's also the option of the reboot. The new heavens, the new earth, the heavenly city descending, lions lying down with lambs, swords being beaten to plowshares, the end of exile. That's the something I've gone for. But the question then is, how does things in the now connect to things in the something? I mean, can they carry through? 1939. J.R.R. Tolkien is working on the early stages of The Lord of the Rings. He's also having doubts about the mythology he's been working on for the last 20 years, and he's expecting another war in Europe. One morning, he wakes up with a story pretty much complete in his head. He gets it down in one sitting. It's eventually published as Leaf by Niggle. So, okay, to summarize. Niggle is a painter. He has a vision of a tree, a big, beautiful tree with brightly coloured birds nesting in its branches. He starts to paint it. Individual leaves are satisfactory, but the painting as a whole does not do justice to his vision. Eventually, Niggle dies with the painting unfinished. After some time in purgatory, he is sent to another country where there's a bicycle waiting for him. He rides across crisp green turf on gently sloping downland that becomes more and more familiar. A great green shadow came between him and the sun. Nigel looked up and fell off his bicycle. There before him stood the tree. His tree, finished. I mean, if you could say that of any tree that was alive, its leaves opening, its branches growing and bending in the wind, that Nigel had so often felt or guessed and had so often failed to catch. He gazed at the tree and he slowly lifted his arms and opened them wide. "It's a gift," he said. He was referring to his art and also to the result. But he was using the words quite literally. There's a lot that I could say about Leaf by Nigel, but fundamentally it speaks to me of the connection between the now and something. Things I do in the now, even if they are pale and weak, will, after the reboot, be carried through into the something. And anything that makes it into the something is worthwhile. The hours spent writing and fretting are lifted, are transformed. There may be only hints here, now, but in the something, they flourish. There are things worth doing, even in the face of death. 30 seconds. When I first started writing seriously, maybe 30 years ago, I was afraid that I would run out of ideas, that I would finish a project and then, nothing. Now, I think I won't be able to get through them all. But I'm going to do what I can. And I'm out of time.